Welcome to the Explainer. So, have you ever felt like you're just stuck in your meditation practice? You've hit that wall, that plateau, and you just can't seem to break through? Well, today we're diving deep into the book Zazen to look at some really advanced strategies that are designed to do just that, to push you past that sticking point and into a real breakthrough.
Okay, so let's say you've put in the time, you've done the work, and you've finally reached that stable place in your meditation, what the text calls sitting in forgetfulness. And honestly, that's a huge milestone. It's that point where the constant mind chatter finally quiets down. But here's the thing the text warns us about. This is where the real work actually begins.
So that's the big question, right? You're on this nice, calm plateau. But now what? How do you actually go deeper and push toward true realization? Because getting stuck here, getting complacent, is a very real danger. You need a new game plan, a much more strategic approach.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to map out the inner obstacles you'll come up against. Then we'll explore 4 really powerful Zen methods for tackling them. And hopefully by the end, you'll have a better idea of which path is the right one for your own journey. All right, let's get into it. The text is pretty clear. Once you've entered that first deep state of meditation, what's called dhyana, your practice has got to change. It's not just about sitting and toughing it out anymore. Nope, it's time to get tactical, to use specific methods to target very specific inner challenges.
But before you can just pick a tool from the toolbox, you need a really clear map of your own mind, your own consciousness. You've got to know exactly what you're targeting, with precision. You've got to know what you're really up against inside.
I mean, what a powerful analogy, right? The text uses this to make a point that is absolutely critical. Understanding the very structure of your own attachments, seeing where they are and how they work, that is the absolute non-negotiable first step. Without that, you're just fighting in the dark. So what exactly are these enemies we're mapping? Well, in Buddhism, our normal everyday consciousness is basically seen as having these 3 layers: delusion, discrimination, and attachment. The best way to think of it is like an onion. Our entire practice is about learning how to systematically and very skillfully peel those layers away. Okay, so this right here, this is the detailed map of that onion. It shows us, step by step, the targets we have to work on to move through the different stages of dhyana, or deep meditation. So you see, you start in what's called the desire realm, working with sexual desire. Then you progress to the first dhyana, focusing on the senses of smell and taste. And it just keeps going, getting more and more subtle, all the way to the deepest layers of emotion in the 4th dhyana. This is the journey. All right, let's look at our first method. This one is a really advanced practice, and it comes from an important Zen text called the Shuragama Sutra. What's so cool about it is that it uses your sense of hearing as a kind of shortcut, a direct tool to bypass some of those early obstacles we just saw on the map. So how does this actually work? Well, it follows this really precise sequence. You're basically using your hearing to turn your awareness deeper and deeper inside. You go from listening to external sounds to listening to your own heartbeat, then to the pure silence underneath that, and finally, you observe the very nature of hearing itself. And once you can do that, the text says you can basically take this huge leap and go directly to observing the discriminating mind itself. Okay, next up, we have a classic method from a major school of Chinese Buddhism called the Tiantai school. This one is all about a powerful 1-2 punch. First, there's cessation, which just means stopping the mind from getting hooked on things. And second, there's observation, which is watching the part of your mind that's doing the perceiving in the first place. Now, here's the trick with this one. The ultimate goal, is to watch all your senses at once. But let's be real, that's almost impossible when you're starting out. So the practical way in, the entry point, is to start with something stable and constant, like the feeling of your breath or the sensations in your body. You just train the mind to watch without getting caught up. Once you build that muscle, then you can move on to trickier targets, like your emotions. All right, now this next part is where things get really interesting, in my opinion. We're going to look at 2 methods that work directly with our emotional energy. So instead of focusing on the 5 senses, these paths kind of bypass all that and go straight for the layer of emotion. And this slide just illustrates the strategy so brilliantly. The core idea is to take a powerful, suffering emotion and use it as a tool, almost like fighting fire with fire. The Hutu method, which is a kind of meditative questioning, harnesses the intense, restless energy of great doubt. Buddha recitation, on the other hand, uses that deep, aching feeling of longing. So, same principle, using strong emotion as fuel, but they're tailored for totally different kinds of people. And to really drive this point home, the author shares this incredibly honest, personal story about his own painful realization. See, he was trying to use the Hu Tao method, the tool of great doubt, but his own nature was really one of deep longing. And as he says here, he felt like he was just wasting his time on something pointless. He was using the wrong tool for his personality. And that just shows how incredibly important it is to pick a path that actually fits who you are. So, you might be wondering, why are there so many different methods? Why not just one? Well, the fundamental insight here is that these practices didn't just appear out of nowhere. They actually evolved over hundreds of years to meet the changing needs and, the changing abilities of practitioners. And you can see that evolution so clearly on this timeline. Way back in the Buddha's era, the focus was often on really abstract concepts like emptiness. Then, later on, you see these analytical observation methods pop up. By the Song dynasty, emotion-based practices like Huatou were all the rage. And today, in our modern era, methods like Buddha recitation are often recommended for people like us who deal with scattered minds and really strong attachments. And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. This is the whole point. The right method depends completely on you. There is no single best method. There is no one-size-fits-all path to a breakthrough. There is only the method that works best for you with your unique inner world, right here, right now. So there you have it. You now understand the map of your own consciousness, and you've seen the different tools that are available to navigate it. You're empowered now to make a smart choice, to pick a practice that doesn't fight against your nature, but actually uses it. A path that can lead you to real, tangible progress. The map is in your hands. The tools are laid out. The only question left is, which path will you walk?